It is my absolute pleasure to join you in recognizing two special men, Darrell and Brian Rochester and Rochester and Associates. I've had a chance to work with this team at Trilith Studios, at the town at Trilith, and our entire ecosystem here, where they have been just incredible men, both on a professional level and on a personal integrity level. These are men that I trust 100%, who do the right things for the right reasons. They're incredibly gifted at the work that they do in civil engineering, but that's just the beginning of it.
In my line of work, I have a lot of people make me a lot of promises. They're going to support us, they're going to help us. But when the rubber hits the road, those guys are not there. They're there for the photo ops. They're there for the big events. They're very excited. But when it's late on a Tuesday night and things are getting tough, those people aren't there. And I remember very early in my time here at Door to Works, Darrell was very clear that he was going to be there no matter what I needed. And I kind of remember brushing that off. But there was a time where I really was having some troubles, and I needed him, and I reached out, and he gave me a call early in the morning, and he kind of talked me through it. At the end of that conversation, I found out he was actually in Spain with his wife on a trip. And I was like, well, Darrell, man, I didn't mean to bother you when you're on vacation. It feels terrible, but he was very clear. I had to promise you I was going to be there when you needed it.
Having been associated with the Rochester family for over 30 years, I have firsthand knowledge of Brian and Darrell's genuine and sincere faith, which first lived in their grandparents, BK and Mildred Rochester, and in their parents, Keith and Dale. It is important, I believe, to recognize that Brian and Darrell have enriched the Northeast Georgia community through their exemplary business, civic, and professional achievements. But the contribution of more lasting and permanent influence on this community stems from their living out the values and principles in pursuing the path of Jesus' teaching. Like their mom and dad before them, business enterprise and successes were never the end, but rather always a vehicle from which a Rochester legacy would provide help, assistance, and support to both people and Christian ministries.
One of the things I've been deeply passionate about over the past several years has been just the lack of spiritual fathers and strong men in society these days. And fortunately for my family, we've got two. We've had great leadership in my dad and uncle. And, as I just think about all the guiding principles they've instilled in us over the years, three that really stuck out to me preparing for this was, one, that they put their faith in family first. They put God first and family right behind it. And we've never been bypassed, and they've always made it apparent that God has given us, the blessings that we've gotten. The next was that, anything you're going to get in life, you got to go after it, and you got to work hard. And things aren't given to you, you earn them. And then the last was just to be generous with your time, your talent, and your treasure, whether or not that's through success or a lack thereof. You've just got to be generous, and they're just selfless men, both of them. They're impossible to buy Christmas presents for, and just grateful to get to be a part of their legacy.
So I started working for Rochester and Associates when I was 13 years old in this very file room, because one thing my dad was going to make sure is that number one, we loved Jesus Christ, and number two, that we had a good work ethic. So that meant that because my dad was the first one here and the last one to leave, and I couldn't drive, I too was the first one here and the last one to leave. But one thing that my dad did that was really special, and I'll always remember, is that he would take time each week to have lunch with me. He would turn off his phone, he would block out the clients, and just spend intentional time with me. And I think that just truly embodies who my dad is as a person. He loves people, and he loves being intentional with them. And I think that that's something that my grandparents instilled into he and Uncle Darrell, was that people come first. And that's something that my cousins and I have truly looked up to and hope to continue within the Hall County area.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up those that poured into them. BK and Ganny and Papa and Mimi both, they poured into them and helped form them as men, and they're carrying that legacy forward into all of us. So we're just, beyond grateful to get to be a part of it, be a part of tonight. And, congratulations to both of them, and we love them both.
One of the first guys Darrell worked with when he was here was a guy in our program who he was in his 30s, been in jail most of his life, really thrown away everything he had. I thought Darrell was kind of crazy for investing in him, but he finished our program, and then he started working here. And Darrell has been a mentor to him. He helped support him as a part-time employee, working in our aftercare program. And that guy that I thought, 4 years ago, even I thought might be a little hopeless. Just was married, been married for 2 years, had his first kid, right? Just bought his first house. And that just seemed 5 years ago, that would have seemed impossible to say this guy's gonna be married with a kid and a house. That can't happen. And so those are kind of things that they're doing that are making Hall County better, right? That is one less men. There's several men now, dozens and dozens of men who are not going to be in jails anymore. They're not going to be on the streets anymore. They're not going to be in back of police cars anymore, right? They're not going to be fathering kids that they're not going to be dads for anymore. They are now tax-paying, committed, productive members of society. They're also living peaceful, happy lives, raising families, and breaking cycles. That's kind of an impact he is to have, and you only do that if you are in it and committed and unwavering. And that is, when you did with the Rochester, that's what you get, right?
I can tell you the words of Jesus, a man's life does not consist of the things he owns, has been the North Star upon which Brian and Darrell have sought to steer a steady course in business and civic endeavors. This legacy is how they've used their skills and talents to serve others. I'm confident that moving forward, Brian and Darrell will continue to leverage their abilities, talent, and treasure for the sake of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and to build up his church on earth, always serving others first.
These are family men who care about the community, who've invested in it. And we couldn't be more excited in joining you to honor them this evening. These are truly, truly worthy of this recognition.
Brian, Darrell, congratulations. It's my honor to celebrate with you and your families tonight.
Darrell and Brian Rochester are laureates in the Northeast Georgia Business Hall of Fame.